Thanks, Pat. Who's your Sasquatch? Mark Burchett, Rostalox. Howdy, everybody. How you guys doing? Great to see everybody. So let's see here. Let's do our little hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Okay, so it's good to see everybody here this evening. Again, this is Enigma Recon, so you guys know, whoever's been here before knows already. Pretty mellow, nonchalant, as I say. Whatever goes during this kind of thing. So I like a lot of feedback. If you're able to jump on the chat while this thing's going on, and give me feedback. Let me know if you guys want to see anything special or anything. I want to start off with a big thanks for all our patrons, amazing people, and we've had a few members join now that we finally got monetized, which is an unbelievable situation. Meaning there's actually features going on right now that have never happened for us before. So it's been 16 years we've tried, and there's always been a strange, let's say, interference from the top. Even the engineers didn't know why, and they were always real polite, but they always said, management basically said, don't fix it. And then but just 2 days ago, we hit 10,000 subscribers, and I reached out to them again, and for some reason or another, the links and things worked. Just out of nowhere, they worked. So we applied, and I had them on the horn while I was doing it, and they actually told me that it would take about a month for them to approve it. That was their normal. And then they said that it might take a little longer because we've been just slammed. And so I don't know why. I just checked within a couple hours, and they'd already approved it. It was green. So I don't know what's going on with that. So it was really, really strange, really crazy, but we're just grateful. Thanks to YouTube. Cool. We're not doing anything wrong. Nothing political going on here, man. All we're doing is showing the shit we find in the field and letting it tell its own story. So it shouldn't really intimidate anybody. And we're passionate, and we're forgiving, and we're understanding, and probably the most tolerant people in the world. It's odd because I think they perceive us as some type of hyper conservative whatever, and it's like we don't care about. None of that exists out there in the rocks and in the hills and with history. And this is just a coming and going of one political system in the last 200,000 years. It's a blink of an eye. It doesn't matter. And we're not about all that. All we're really about is just clarification and truth. And of course, patriotic in that sense. The American ideal is very important. It's the first basically free society on the planet. It was about 98% of the planet was in poverty, and the other 2% ruled over everybody. So, due to our standards, and we got a lot of our country's methodology and thinking process from the Native Americans, believe it or not, as well as qualities within the belief in God, not so much just Christianity or especially the Catholic religion, but all in all. So that being all said, thank you to Google and everybody for kicking us back on, and that's cool. First time in 16 years. So we have members available, and we have 3 new members, which is right off the bat, which is really neat to see. I know there's already patrons. I don't expect you guys to jump on everything. A lot of the same behind the scenes content will end up for our patrons and for our members, and there'll be a little bit of different stuff based on how it goes, but what we can do when we can do them. If we're live streaming a base camp and stuff, it might be better to be a member here or whatever. Those things are all in the future. But first off, also want to say hi to Jeff Hall. I see he's chimed in here. Really good to see everybody. That's an excellent deal. So we got a little bit of news and a few things to talk about. We had some pretty unusual encounter the other day. I want to just jump right into this. And it was during our last recording for our last video that we put out. And whoever watched that, you'll notice we were having an encounter with something large that was making sounds. And it was obvious it was making them toward us. And when I would film and focus over there and everything, naturally it would just shut up. Just absolute crickets, not even crickets. And anyway, it kept doing it when we'd turn everything off, turn around and start doing whatever. It would do it again to get attention or whatever. And it was obviously coming closer through big rocks. But these rocks are half the size of a house or size of a house, whatever, jumbled together to the size of maybe a Volkswagen to the pieces jumbled in between. And so anything, even large, can move through that really rapidly and really quick. If it needs to, any natural creature anyway. Humans, it's like, oh boy, here we are. We're mice crawling through cinder blocks. So we hear this thing, and the sound is getting closer. And Tara had moved over there, and you can see on the video she had moved over there and got on the side, and she heard the sound, and I heard it. She was about, I say, over there, probably 75 to 100 yards, almost the length of a football field, and it was past her from my position, beyond her, and I heard it loud and clear, and it was strange enough, and it was strange because it was kind of a high pitch. I could do it at the day, but I don't think I could do it now. But it's kind of a high pitched, whistly, a combination between that. Like you could do it with your lips really fast and make that whistling with a slight high pitched hum behind it. That sound, and really quick though, almost mechanical, really fast, really crazy, almost like a frog. But if it was a frog, it wouldn't be. And then we moved up in the canyon. We went ahead and stopped our plan for the day, our progression, and we moved up the canyon and moved around to high ground. And that's when we saw the serpent effigy that's in that video as well, that we pour water in and the water flows down and shows you a direction. And it's all about the ceremony. And anyway, while I was on that boulder, it was doing it probably from under the boulder. Believe it or not, the boulder was it's a large monolithic piece. It's the size of a house, and we're on top of it. And this thing apparently was maybe underneath it because the sound kept reflecting directly back from the rocks in front of me down below. And it's all rock. There's no dirt there. It's all solid rock base, solid rock base with big bouldering all the way around it. So sound reflects. And but anyway, and so to carry on about the encounter, so I knew it wasn't normal, and I've been around a lot of Bigfoot, and that they're certainly capable of making that sound, and I've even heard that sound like that. But at one point, frogs and everything do a very, very predicted call. So they do a certain series of calls, and there's some birds that do mimicking and stuff all over, but they're still usually mimicking other calls. They don't do a whole lot of random creation. Some do, ravens and mockingbirds and things like that, but this thing did. So it was doing kind of the same sound, and then it went like that. Like, what the hell? It totally changed into this other sound. And as I was kind of talking down there and talking toward it, and because at that point in time, it was right down below us. It had moved all the way in somehow or another, whatever it was, and it sounded large. And anyway, what I'm getting to is that our buddy, who is one of the landowners basically out there, they're one of the people that live there and own it and work the land, and they're there all the time, had an encounter that's a little bit odd. And it was within one day, might even be in the same day, believe it or not, but it was within one day in the same area, on the same plot of land, so to speak. Which you'll see is, if you've watched the videos, it's really broken up land, mesa lands and a river bottom with escarpment, 115 foot or something, all broken up with large crevices and cracks. And like I said, house-sized rocks and things up in the canyons. And so what I'll do is I'll just bring it up, and we'll see. It might just work for us. Let's see if it just works, because this thing's been pretty cooperative lately. Well, it didn't just work, but actually, maybe it did. It did just work. I'm looking at the wrong screen. Okay, so what we have here is, move it over a little bit, is a quote directly from Billy to me. And he wrote it the day after we did this. I found it the next morning. So it was probably the same day we experienced it. But he writes, so the other day I was exploring a canyon, and I heard what sounded like a phone vibrating on a table, but louder. I crossed the canyon, and when I turned around, there was a white calf. I thought, shit, I just went by there. How did I miss him? So I loped back over there to get around it, and when I got on top, it was gone. I knew I wasn't tripping. I saw a white calf that weighed probably 600 pounds, same size as all our other calves at the ranch, right? I spun my horse around to see the biggest damn mountain lion I've ever seen. But strangely enough, when it ran away, it ran like a deer would. Okay, I need you to consider a few things. So there's a word, and it's where we all know, have heard the term reconnoiter or recon. Hold on. So to reconnoiter is to go, to find, look at something unknown, unseen, unexpected even. Okay, and recon is basically the derivative of that. Well, they come from a word called recondite, and recondite is something that the brain experiences that is new. Okay, but it's so new that it's recondite. Has no association to compare it to, and so when the brain sees something and tries to interpret the visual picture to an image in the mind, and the mind has to build that image for us to look at it, it doesn't know what to build. Okay, so it makes the first fastest things. It's actually to save information and quicker to thinking. And our cameras do some of the same sampling and interpretive sampling. So through what they call AI cameras, like my phone has an AI camera in it. And that's what it's basically doing. It's looking at shapes and then refining shapes and making them into things that are familiar. Lines and lines, so to speak. But your brain does it in a really complicated nature. I mean, look at how we dream. It's extremely complex. It's absolutely real. Flavors and scents and sounds and feelings and the atmosphere, what's going on, right? Well, that is what the brain does. It creates this from the data we get in from our senses. We don't actually see through a tube onto a panel. It literally goes in as in data through what our senses are, and then the brain interprets that, creates these images for us. Well, there's a couple of reasons that the brain does it, but it builds images, or it can erase images, believe it or not. It's why when we, as humans, they can give them drugs or whatever, and they can hallucinate and actually see a thing. You'd think, oh yeah, it's like a cartoon. No. They can actually see an elephant bust the wall of their house down. It's like a dream. They can see it, but in the real world, it's like augmented reality. Overkill to the max. So when someone, probably like Billy, sees something like this at no fault of their own, the mind interprets, creates the image, and does it quickly. And if it's a fleeting glimpse and they see it fast, and their mind goes, oh, it's this, it's instantly remembered as that. This is what makes the inconsistencies in memories for people. Some people do this, some people don't. Some people interpret the image completely and look at it, and those people don't suffer from that as much. In this case, when we look at a couple of items in particular here, and we can go to our famous little red circle that we use all the time, and when it says, and when I turned around right here, there was a white calf. That's what he starts with. And it makes sense in his mind because we look at it the way we would in code. It's same size as all the other calves on the ranch, right? So when he says right, he's giving you that message that he wrapped that up in a circle the way the mind does. And he's looking for confirmation, right? Okay, so there's a sense in there that couldn't have been what he saw. It's already there. There's a question. And then we back up and, probably 600 pounds. Now that's an important thing because what he actually noticed was something white around 600 pounds. That's a large creature. His brain, he's out on horseback. They're riding looking for cows. It's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's nothing out there like that. Boom, white calf. Okay, cool. I'm going to loop around and see what he's doing. Maybe run him out of the canyon. Do whatever Billy was doing. Count him, whatever. But to go from a white calf, okay, to a mountain lion, matter of fact, the biggest damn mountain lion he'd ever seen, especially if it's 600 pounds, right? Okay, so if you're talking, we've got a 600-pound mountain lion. Do you realize how big of a mountain lion that would be? Okay, so a big black bear, big average black bear, 300 pounds, right? A big desert black bear, lowland black bear, 140, 200 pounds, 250 pounds maybe. 600 pounds. There's been black bear 600 pounds, but you're talking, then you're into the range of the the browns, right, which is the grizzlies. That's a massive animal. So to then equate your brain, that's a mountain lion, tells you the second thing. Now, he tells you in the end here, and I'm not going to circle it, that it's the way it ran away like a deer would. Okay, so it obviously, its first thing was the size with the brain connect. So there's a 600-pound white calf. I'm going to ride the other side of the canyon. How did I miss it? I rode right by it. How in the world did I miss it? Okay, probably wouldn't have missed it if it had been a calf. All right, that's an important thing too, because it would have just been there. I mean, they're not that elusive, especially white in that country. And then he gets on the other side and he looks back, and turns into a mountain lion, but it runs off like a deer. Now, I've had Bigfoot that we know were Bigfoot because we went out afterwards and did the full follow-up, and it was Bigfoot prints. It wasn't mountain lion prints, but they swore that they were mountain lions. And then people had witnessed what they called giant furry mountain lions, like they were hairy, not just the short-looking fur. They were giant, hairy, furry mountain lions. And you'd think, oh, well, might be some prehistoric cat. But if you've ever been around a Bigfoot very much, the way they move is regarded as creepy because it's cat-like. It's extremely creepy because their whole body is fluid. And when they hunker down and move, man, they hunker down and move like nothing you've ever seen before. Matter of fact, it's creepy. I mean, the spider crawling's bad enough, and that's elbows up, knees up, on the ground, spread out, head this high off the ground, coming right at you, and looking up at you. That's hardcore stuff to experience. So when people have seen them before, they have appeared as if mountain lions. One guy I know saw one, thought it was a mountain lion. He saw it pretty close, and he was losing all of his fowl. And it turned around and looked at him. And he said, and then he didn't know what he was seeing. It said it had an ape-looking face, but its smile went ear to ear so huge that the smile was just creeped him out. And then it turned and bolted. And he said when it bolted, it ran like a mountain lion on all fours, back doing this undulating the way cats' backs do when they run, like really, he said it was grabbing the ground with its forelimbs. It was grabbing the ground and pulling and arching at a fast. And so when I hear this thing, a deer hop, boom, boom, boom. When they go to get away for something, they don't mess around. They start hopping to get big acceleration. And if it ran off like a deer, that means that's what he experienced. Big primates do that too. When they begin their movement, and their movement is done in large arcs, and that's the body all planting, lifting, going over, planting, lifting, going over. So it looks very similar to that same thing. And if you've got bouldering and you've got cedars and stuff, and you're seeing this thing do this, that's the movement you equate in your mind if we picture what he experienced. And just to add in, I mean, so what was beneath the boulder on the video as we're filming? What was in the canyon? Why did Tara get the heebie-jeebies so bad? It wasn't the altar stone, nothing like that. When we stood on that big rock, there was no bad feeling. There was no bad juju. We didn't feel in any way intimidated spiritually, anything like that. So and I don't feel that way around the Bigfoot creatures unless there's that air of it. So we're very intuitive. When a big badass walks in a bar and he's going in there to assert himself, and most men feel that, and it's a protective thing, So it's the same thing with most of them if they're aggressive or anything like that. I never experienced anything. I never felt that experience out there. So for that whistling sounding vibration, which Billy explains it, actually, he says it pretty well, except it had a tone to it from what I remember, and that's a phone vibrating on a table. It was just like that. So tells me whatever visited us and came in on us, got closer, went right where we were going, actually. Whatever pulled that off must have done something similar with Billy, and probably on that same day. So let me rip through some of the comments here. You guys have been busy again. Hello, Kat. How you doing, buddy? Let's try to say hi to everybody we can. Cryptic Crystal, good to see you. Steve Wolf, good to see you. We got Wandering Star, good to see you here. Welcome. Oh, Duke. What's up, Duke? World Bigfoot Radio, Duke. If you guys don't know who Duke is or unaware of what Duke does, you guys got to zip over there and see his channel. Truth Eye, you're correct about the mind interpreting things. I saw a coyote. Then when I looked again, it was a large mountain lion. I didn't make a misidentification. That actually happened in Utah one night. And that's right. And that's exactly how it works. And it's funny because with Bigfoot and with humans and with parrots and even plants, man, they've taken a plant, put it on one side of the country, gone at a person on the other side of the country and had them experience pain and had them experience an orgasm. And both times, and no matter how many times they did it instantaneously, his house plant reacted on the other side of the country. So when we talk about intuition and things like that, now we talk about something like this and your mind is looking for answers, right? All it's got to throw out there in a sense is deer. And you might just see a deer. This is what I'm dealing with right now. Okay, buddy, get down. So, and you might just see a deer. So I've felt that feeling, as I've said in the past, and this, I'm not embarrassed to mention it because who knows where it comes from. I'm not attributing anything. And it's not, I'm hearing voices in my head because I don't hear any words. What comes across is that feeling of what words are. It's like if I hold this up, I don't have to say the word cup for you to know the word cup. And usually we speak to ourselves in our own language that we're aware of. So when something inspires a thought, so regardless, anyway, that same intuitive thing from telling me to get out of the way, get out of here, whatever, I've also felt like I'm a deer or I'm a cow. It's just a cow, like my own brain saying it's just a cow. Even when I have seen it, looking at the evidence of it, it's right there. I was just hit by a rock by it, right? A cow threw this rock at 50 miles an hour. But anyway, you see what I'm saying. So, yeah, you could tell she felt the sound. Yeah, you could. And you could also tell she was trying to be really modest about it. She was maybe a little embarrassed about it, as most people are. Because initially she was very concerned. She came back with haste, a little clip in her step, and she looked bothered. And I said, what? And I said, was that sound? And I said, I know I heard it. And we both knew it's not a bird. It sounded, it was larger. Larger things move more air. They sound larger. So regardless if it's high pitched or not, or higher, that was a good observation. Yeah, Crystal. Yeah, Digger Dog, fastest thing you've ever seen in the woods. Yeah, it's the fastest thing I've ever seen. That's why Bigfoots are said, even by the natives, they don't have a problem hunting. Hunting's not an issue. If they want an animal, they get it. Period. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, thank you, Crypto Crystal. The snake water rock was awesome. Yeah, I think so too, man. You talk about an unbelievable thing, and I'm sure that was used probably for blood at one time, probably animal blood or whatever. I'm not going to guess. But there's a high chance this is ancestral Aztec. So the people who the Aztecs came from, this probably would have been around their southern boundaries of their territory. And so I know that a lot of the Aztec treasure was brought up here from Mexico, and the Jesuit priests were tracking it down here. And I know this whole valley was off limits for 8,000 to 9,000 years per the Apache that told me that. And so that does look like it's probably had 8,000 or 10,000 years of aging on that sculpture, that glyph. And the reason it's cupped and then it has higher edges and then they go down, the reason that's done is if you go into sandstone, it has a softer core. It's basically a compressed beach, if you think about it. And on the inside, there's moisture to some degree. And the outside will harden and get a crust. And that's why some of the rocks you see, even in these videos, will have a crust hanging over and then it'll have a cavity inside. And the inside will be hollow. And that's because where the sun beat down, it hardened the crust. And the inside didn't get irradiated and stiffened and hardened. And so it's remained softer and it erodes out and leaves this shell. So what we see on that surface is a almost horizontal surface where water's had a chance to sit and eat, and the acids of the desert to eat away the stone. You can see that acidic cracks and stuff. Those aren't fractures. That's from the acids eating away at the rock slowly. But it eats the harder parts the least. And when you make a carving on a uneven surface and face it to the sun and it bakes hard, then it tends to erode down and it leaves those sharp edges as peaks. And so we're seeing the edges of the cut snake almost as peaking all the way around that, which is, and then there's been erosion around the peaking, and it's all clearly evident. So it's it's really amazing, and it's indicative of an age that is out there. It's beyond it. Oh, hey, Nick N. Good to see you in. Who else we got in here right now? Wonder what caused our mind total blank spots, even years more memories. Well, that's usually what it is. I mean, if scents, odors, and things like that, if they were specific to an event, can even crack those doors open. But the mind, you can only think of, there's time involved. So you can only think about so many things in so many times. So the brain brackets things, throws them away, so that you have more time to deal with what you got to deal with. Basically, that's why you can kind of. What I do is when I want to remember something really obscure, I just basically have a little picture of a guy sitting in a chair in a hall, like doing it, whatever. I send him down the hall, and then I forget about it. And 10, 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later, all of a sudden I get, oh, that's what that was. And so how that works, I don't know. I don't question it. It seems to work. Yeah, Mark Bichette, an albino calf would be extremely rare. But they have a lot of white cows. I mean, white cows aren't that rare a thing. Not domestic cattle anyway. So, yeah, Duke, what's up? Just got to your other one. Saw a wild wandering star. Says I saw a wild black cow bull in the desert once. Thought it was a plywood cutout painted. It's strange seeing something so dark in the desert. Yeah, you ought to run into them about 3 a.m, and you're cruising along, walking, and it's just dark enough. You think you can make everything out, and run right into a gosh damn bull standing there. That's hardcore. So let's see. We're getting down here a little bit now. Said World Book Central. Duke just filmed a vid on Mount Sentinel yesterday. Cool. Uploading to Rumble, right on Duke. Go check that out. I really support everybody. I don't believe in competing as much as I do collaborating. And so I like working with people instead of working against them, certainly, or in competition in that sense. So I don't have time. I don't have time to compete. Just go bust your own ass. You won't have to compete anyway. Good to see you. Got monetized, Robert. God bless. Well deserved. Jim Beam. Good to see you, Jim. Great to talk to everyone here that's in there this evening, man. It's really cool. So, yeah, and I noticed there was a change in our viewers and stuff. Now we're still getting throttled, and it's pretty kick-ass. I could bring some of that up. Indiana Cryptid, $10. Hey, man, thanks. That's awesome. Wow, amazing. Thank you very much. Hey, you could ask a question or something with that, bro. Whatever you want. But anyway, the monetization is really cool, and then we did see a change in the graph. So it's really complicated. The metrics are extremely complicated. And it's meant so you can see kind of the psychology of all the people and demographic and when and what, where. But we still notice the same throttling, which, hey, whatever. I don't, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But our peaks on our information, instead of being these curves like this, they're either like this, which means they're going to skyrocket to mad viral, or they're straight up from the inception. And then like we just put out a video, got 3,000 views today, a short. Just wham. We've never had anything like that. But it had 1,500 views in less than 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes. And the line just goes up, and then it seems like the algorithm just caught it at a certain point and just flatlined it across. And then you're getting maybe 1 or 2 views an hour, if that. So it's interesting how this is working out. Anyway, but it's going to help us because we're really, right now especially, we're really backed up. I had a previous employer, worked as a mechanic. I don't know why, man. I did a good job for him, earned him a lot of money. And he just never would pay out. He always wanted to just drop a little cash, like I need to go get a bottle of vodka or something, you know what I mean? Instead of just here's your pay for how much do I owe you? Let me see your paperwork. Okay, here it is, blah, 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 and all that. There was none of that. It's just like, here's some money at the end of the day, and then it never added up. And after a while, it turned out to be like $5,000 or something. So, but we're skating, but it's pretty tight. And I've got to do the Moonlight Gathering here very, very quick, and that's on our dime, and I wouldn't miss it. Hitchhike if we have to, whatever. I'm not saying we're destitute or anything like that. We got everything we need, but we don't have, there's nothing extra at this time until I can do some kind of collection to get my employment money back. So I appreciate every bit of help, man. You guys are badass, and it's all going to keep everything rolling. So, Richard, good to see you. Fairbanks says it's 70 degrees in Fairbanks. How cool is that? That's actually pretty damn warm for Fairbanks. You guys got to be cooking. All right, so let's we'll go ahead and cruise on to something else. We'll see what. So if you guys are curious about any of the stuff you've seen in the last video series, I want you to holler out, and we'll bring some stuff up and talk about it. It's certainly worth considering. It like there's going to be a hell of a story told by that site, and I mean a hell of a story. It's obvious already. It's not just Spanish involvement, which the Jesuits, man, they were tracking the Aztecs. Well, you know why. I mean, they cut the heads off 300 priests because they knew the priests had information about where these locations were, and they didn't. The king eventually got word of that. There was an estimate of 600 million tons is what was buried that they never got their hands on. They figured that they hauled 2% of what they had located and restashed and hid or whatever. And but they only got about 1% of it back overseas. And that represented the major portion of gold in the known world. Matter of fact, the first boat that went back made the king of Spain, king of Portugal, the two richest people on the planet. That tells you. And then the 200 galleons sank off one reef off Cuba alone. So, and then they shipped the stuff for 200 years. And that only represents, these are 150 ton to 250 ton hull ships. And that only represented about 2% in total of what they had discovered in the New World. And all the rest of that's put away. And the priests knew where this stuff was, and Spain didn't. And they were going to keep it that way. Basically, they were going to come here and create America in a sense, and that was the Jesuits. So it's all sitting there waiting for the get if somebody can do it. So anyway, if you guys have any questions, man, I know you guys are doing your own thing in the comments. There we go. Thanks for writing that in big letters so I could see that question, Jeff. How much would that big rock move with erosion over the years? Surprisingly, not a lot, even in thousands of years. Mass is a pretty big deal because it takes more force to move stationary mass. And a rock that size is so heavy, there just really isn't anything mechanical that would move it in that location. There's never going to be, the flow zone in that little canyon there is very small. It was created by erosion more than flow. And that's why you can see the rocks, a lot of them still have all their angles and everything, and those will stay that way. They'll erode to still be sharp without ever eroding from flow in that zone. There's no gravel or anything like that. So they can last, I mean, in that position could hold easily 8,000 or 10,000 years. It might shift, one way or another to some degree. But really, it's like when we see these pinnacles of stone, and you've got a big rock on a little bitty pedestal, and then you've got a glyph on there that's 8,000 years old, and you think, well, that should have fallen or whatever. But once there's a cap, it's like having a roof on a building. If the roof is good, the building will stay there, period. The building will stay there eternally if the roof is good because it's not exposed to any type of sun, oxidation, weathering, rain, hail, and all these things that tend to dissolve a building. And so rock is the same way. If the top of it is obviously heavily eroded, it has flow zones that face that same inclination. So we believe it's inclined there. But when we really look at all that big rock, it all looks like it was positioned. It doesn't look like it naturally just all fell there. And that's how we see giant monumentation at very ancient sites. It's all they did. That's what they messed with. That's how they built. And they built their shelters. They didn't make them out of little rocks usually. They took huge rocks, piled them together, and then they'd rock up just small portions of them or dig out small portions in them. And I have a feeling that's because of the flora and fauna that was running around. You had birds that were 13 feet tall and taller that had beaks, solid beaks, this big, that could literally bite your arm off. And they would have fed, and they were known to have fed in different various places in the world on humans. And so you talk about a horrible predator to deal with. A cat's one thing. A bird doesn't care. If you're food, it goes at you full speed, full blast. I mean, you see it all the time. Watch a roadrunner chase a lizard or anything like that, any type of predatory bird. They're fearless and they're relentless. I've seen an eagle grab a small deer and then roll down a mountain with it. And that eagle never did let go. And it looked horrifying, right? Birds would have been bad. And they're not the only animal out there. You had dire wolves, you had saber-toothed tigers, you had cave bears, you had cave lions, you had all these creatures running around that would just eat you. And we were like this soft little fruit bag, we don't even compete. And so yeah, I believe that that stuff could last forever. And I think that their domiciles and their little rooms and buildings, it's the same way. When we find them, they've been there, I think, 8 or 10,000 years. How much further exploration have you done around that lizard dino head boulder with the spaces below? Nick, lizard dino head boulder. The one right across on the same site. I think you're talking about, Nick. You can let me know for sure. I'll watch. Not very. If that's what you're talking about, because where the big, it looks like it's a dragon head looking thing. Yeah, lizard, whatever, dino. Yeah, that area, we haven't done hardly any work over there at all. Matter of fact, we just did a simple ground survey to see if there was any recent metal objects. And it's a really cool spot because that's all covered in flat flagstones of rock, of stone. And when I look beneath them, there's a layer of dirt and rocks. It's like they were laid all out there, like the whole thing was paved with flat flagstone, paving stones. Super cool. If that wasn't the spot you're talking about, let me know, Nick, and we'll go on. So, yeah, and something else too about that somebody just said, hungry giant peanut brain birds. Man, that's awesome, because that's exactly what they were, and they wouldn't have stopped. I could probably find a picture of one of these things for you if you guys don't know, what I'm talking about. But let's see. When you go into the lodge, okay, see, I got to go back a little and make sure I don't pass. The last time we were live, I have to apologize, because the last time we were live, we definitely I did go by a few questions, and I felt bad because I like to answer these questions. This is the title's Q&A, so I mean, it's hard not to want to answer them, right? When you go into the lodge, I wish with all my heart I could do such an adventure. We're thinking October. We're going to do the best we can for October. This year's been really strange year. But that's what we want to do. And I talked to Ron just the other day. I know our last live, we got on here, we talked a little bit about it. If you didn't get a chance to see that, you might want to check that out. It's 3 hours, but we make a phone call with Ron, does the call in for us, and we go over that. But yeah, so we're supposed to do it sometime in October, and we just have not established when as of yet. Shouldn't be too long, I wouldn't think. Anyway, I mean, we don't want it to be too long. That's kind of the whole point. So make sure my audio is still good. Everybody's still good. If it's running smooth, that's great, because we usually don't run very smooth, which this makes it kind of nice on this round. Everything looks good. So Wandering Star says, I've seen a big boulder that was in the middle of a growing tree, split the tree in half and grow almost like two. Would that be a sign? Yeah, that's a little weird, because, well, normally something like that would take placing the rock after the tree had sprouted and was already growing, because you're not going to see a sprout start under a boulder and then grow out more than one side, because sprouts don't work that way. Sprouts don't Y until they get up, and then they put out their first leaves, and then they begin to grow and Y. So that's a really interesting mental picture. Yeah, that was the site, the dragon thing. And that lizard, I like that lizard dino head boulder. So that rock is crazy. And when we think of the age and the weathering, and then we see the features that are left behind, so it's just like a statue we see that's been out too long, and the features go down. I don't know how nice these things could have been made at the time, because they were sandstone. So even with sharp quartz and granite, whatever, you can carve, sandstone. So there's no telling what those things look like. So how big was a dire wolf? Big, really big, like 4 foot at the shoulder, something like that. We could, actually, in this computer, who knows? And we don't have everything just readily available. I wish I had a producer. I could say, hey, find me a picture of a dire wolf. But you guys probably get bored if I sit there and look up things. I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, they were pretty large. I've seen the scale comparison to a dire wolf and a human standing, and it was big enough that you wouldn't want to mess. It would rip your arm off. A lot bigger than a normal wolf, and normal wolves get 175 pounds. Big animals. Probably even heavier. Arctic's probably get even bigger. Big animals, and these things tower over them. I mean, it would have been hellacious to deal with. So we're looking. Hi, Bob. Good to see you. And Brian. I didn't say hi, Brian Mechanic. Good to see you, brother. Seen you around a while. Tell everybody, hey. Bob, what's up? Hey, brother, from Bob22. Oh, Jeff, Bob. That's Bob. Okay, everybody, if you don't know Bob, that's Bob. So Bob Fenstermaker wrote a book called, what was your book called, Bob? Why don't you write it in the deal down here for everybody, so it'll be in the chat, because I want, and you're welcome to put a link if you can write it in the chat as well. All right. Okay, so Bob's book's called Revolution 222, and it's a wonderful book. You guys got to check this out. Spills it as fiction, but there's probably more, I don't know, human-based reality. I never got to read the whole thing. I didn't say got to. I never took the time to. It's hugely horrible because I consider Bob my best friend in the world. And a lot of people haven't seen Bob unless you've seen some of the older KX Bigfoot videos and stuff like that. But anyway, he wrote this book, and I did the cover art for him way back when we had some pretty generic programs and things, but it turned out pretty pimp. So, but anyway, this book is about the adventures of the human spirit and mind. And it has a lot of very deep revelations that he doesn't need to say, that make themselves clear throughout reading. And some people have said it's changed their lives. It's one of the most enlightening things that they've ever come across. So amazing guy. Great to see you, Bob. Never seen you in here, I don't think, right? So hopefully be in all these. I was going to actually have you on with me if you would do it. And now, where'd you go? Okay. Steve Wolf, Kreider, right on. So, Richard, even if 10% of the story is true, I believe it all. Oh, nice. I love that. That's a good one, man. That's a really good saying. Where the hell did Bob go? Okay, so now, what else going on in here? Any thoughts on size of the creatures moving, those logs in the kill zone area, even if it was a couple moving, each tree, they'd have to be insanely large within a... Yeah. And I've done a lot of the work. I was using AI to do some of it, but it didn't work out as well as I wanted to for the math. Because bone density, and there's a lot to figure out when you go to the volumetric change of mass. And but when we look at some of the known ratios and just kind of scale up from some of the other large primates, I would figure a 12-foot one would have a lifting strength every bit. They could lift a tree like that, 18 to 20,000 pounds, could lift it up. To walk with it or do much with it or try to maneuver it, I don't see it. Now, it'd have a jerk strength probably 40,000 pounds. I mean, that's like what we can pick up is a lot different than what we can jerk and use our mass and jerk. So that being said, you have an 18,000 pound tree, 100 foot tall, 30 inches thick, green, moving it as you would. So I don't even see how they move them horizontally, to be honest. It's like, I think you could bear hug sometime that big if you were big enough and bring it vertical through the forest, even though it'd be interacting with the canopy. But however, so they did it. I always felt it was at least two of those guys, and that would be pretty massive for them to pull off. Two big 12-foot, 6 foot across the shoulders, whatever, the big guys. I know some people have come up and said, 13 foot, 15 foot, stuff like that. But to be honest with you, I just have not seen myself prints or seen one larger than what 12 foot. So, and that was so big, it was like an elephant, and it probably weighs 3,000 to 3,200 pounds. And that's probably fair. And people say, well, it's 600, 800. No, I don't care what you say. Go do the math. Look at a guy who's 1 foot taller than a guy. He'll weigh twice what he weighs. But when you're 1 foot shorter, the difference won't be that much. So it's exponential. The amount that the weight goes up versus height is tremendously exponential, because all the volume goes up and density to carry that volume and things like that. So let's hit another question up in here. It says, Robert, much respect. Has your metal detector led you to anything fortuitous? Only if it doesn't cause problems. Yeah. Boy, I could probably, I'm sure I could pull a pick off that. But yeah, absolutely. I'll even show you some of the stuff. So this is this site. Well, and I wouldn't say that the metal detector all by itself, because we get to this site by following stone monuments. I'm not sure. Matter of fact, I have. Let's see what pulls up here. If these will pull up on the. Okay. Okay, I've got to switch to software in order to see what we're doing now. But these are kind of some of the stuff. These were really horrible pictures taken with this little weird camera back in the day. Okay, and I guess for some of you that might have a hard time seeing my cursor, we'll bring up our little red dot here. Oops, we don't move that around. That's the wrong thing. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Just bear with me. Okay, for some reason it selected the wrong thing there. Okay, so we're going to look at what we see in the center here. These look like just a pile of rocks, but they're really, really not. And even the hillside isn't quite what it appears. This is a big turtle's head, and this is his shell back in the back. And this is an old or ancient mine location. And let's see if we can drag this up, if it'll get a little bit bigger for us. Maybe it won't. Maybe we can do it like this. Yeah, let's do this. Thanks for bearing with me. You guys know how live is. Okay, got a mosquito all over me or something. And I'm going to lock that so we can get back to our L circle. Okay, so yeah, what we're seeing here is this would be a big turtle's head. This is his shell. And these rocks out front are kind of similar. So if you look at this one right here, I think we can zoom right in there. That's another turtle's head. And it's looking out across a valley. So if we follow that guy, I don't even know what's in line in the pictures, and we don't care. We'll just take a shot and see. How about that? See, they're all similar pictures. But you can see how that other turtle's looking out. There's another completely different lighting. I'm not sure. Okay, there we go. So then we get back over here. Oh, that wasn't supposed to move. I don't know what I just moved, but it probably was a really bad thing. The software is crazy. All right, so we go up here and look. We have what's called a daylight marker, or a solar marker, a sun marker, whatever. And that right there tells us there's gold parked to the left, basically. But this is on a separate part of that hill. And so, but it gives us one of our starter alignments. And see what's next here. Oh, well, there a little bit of a picture of it. You can actually see, I moved my circle out of the way. You can actually see that it has a pointer on it. And so that pointer is telling us direction. And that prop is artificial. And then that little pointed rock on top. And then as well, even this rock down slope that you can see. That rock as well. So that's telling us to head that direction, and it's not that great of a distance. And that's declared by the angles. And one of these days we'll be going through all that stuff, and I'll show you for my notes and things how all that kind of crap works. But here you can see that's another better picture of what's down below it. And like I said, I really don't know. So these are the two hills. The one on the right is the one that has that on it. And then here you can see in the distance, we've got some rocks. This would be basically what we call a camp area, but there's almost always a flat place where you could camp. It's badass, but it's also usually monumented. And they often look like this, where big rocks set out there by themselves. And in this case, the information's encoded in these triangles. You'll notice everything's a triangle. There's two triangles next to each other. That's super important. And there's a notch in the left. That's super important. These are no more triangles. This is a model of the hill showing you where two vertical shafts are and where adits come out on the sides, upper side of the hill, believe it or not. And then lower adits at a distance. And then look, right here is a real pretty pyramid, and which is not uncommon at all. Which actually is a very nice pyramid that I don't know if it's in these pictures or not. Like, I haven't even looked through these, believe it or not. I just pulled these out of a computer the other day. But what I can more get into is the site itself. So when we get on this site, we see this, and this is, let me see, we're not quite in our position here anymore, are we? It's all right. We'll get to it. So take our photos, move this over a little bit. I guess that's all right. So this is an area we call Solar Cross Mines. You can see now. Now, the reason that we had that notch in the left, there's a whole big set of monuments that's probably not in this picture series. Unfortunately, I haven't got everything from the other computers and the hard drives, and have terabytes of stuff, and it's not all accessible through here. And also, it's kind of tough when you're doing it this way to search through that many files. But this site in particular was laid out with another couple of big hills like the ones you saw before. And they're half a mile to a mile apart. And then this hill's a mile from those, or from the closest one. And you gain information as you progress toward the actual site. And so we knew what we were looking for here would be two shafts on top of a hill, and they would be marked by triangles, and there should be some form of a notch in the left hand knob of the triangle. And that is actually what we have on this site exactly. And you'll see it in maybe one of the other shots, the notch and the whole 9 yards. But if you can read the picture there, obviously, we have a couple of things. This rock is a map, actually a map of what's underground. And then these two crosses, that's super important because the Jesuits were in this thing. I don't know if they opened the tops, but they definitely went in the bottoms. But they didn't dig this. This would have predated them. This is ancient. The original maps are far older. And people would think, well, they wouldn't put a map like that. Well, yeah, they would, because they did. And then this area you see in the center that I'm circling now, this area is the shaft itself. And I get out of the way. You can make it out. It's a large area around that deal, and it has a lot of pack rat midden, like we talked about in the last video. What pack rat, deposition means, and you can see the size of the sticks are 18 inches, 20 inches long in the pack rat stuff. These aren't little bitty rats. These are rats. These are big rats. They have to have a big space down in there to go and do what they're doing. And anyway, so this is actually a vertical shaft in solid granite. And inside this is all to answer a question, but it really puts us off. It's great because I can hit this entire thing with my metal detector. And my first scan was with the metal detector. And I registered about a 50 by 50 square that was giving me what I call warbles. And that's like it goes back on the detector on these low frequency, the whites, 6 kilohertz, classic 3 old detectors. And so they're bouncing signals. They'll bounce it through everything. It's sometimes hard to find a target because it's all over the place. It bounces. But regardless, so they bounce it all over the place. It'll go down that footage to get to a high target like gold, highly conductive and highly absorbent of radar or energy radio signals. It'll hold a lot of electrons, and you get that back. So it'll push a hell of a signal back up to you. And I was getting that with a metal detector in about a 50 by 50 on this. And there's a reason for that. And as we go through it, man, it's pretty cool. You guys will trip. So some of this stuff. So this is actually myself in the middle, the infamous Isaac Cappy to my right. Yes, he used to be on our research team. You may have heard of him. You may not have. You can look him up if you want to. Pretty controversial stuff. Pretty sad story. Great guy, though. And so this is actually the shaft here from another perspective, but you'll see is this notch right right here in this deal. And this triangle's on top of the shaft. And that's really common because that's what designates an air shaft, is a triangle. And this notch was actually on most of the monumentation that led to this site, had that notch in place. And so we know that that was what we consider the royal shaft. This is the good one. This is the one where we should have goodies, like good goodies. This is another picture of the same shaft from the opposite direction. You can see how it has settled in over time and how the tack rats have deposited all the way around the shaft. And then this is bedrock on this side, and then this is our map stone over here. And there's other markers here as well that tell us this is death trapped, and that would be a lightning bolt. Not sure I had those pictures. I'm looking. Yeah, that would be a actually, does our picture just mess up or what? Something happened. Let's see if I can pull it down. Put it back. Here, hold on just a second. Oh, still have it open. That's why. Okay, so, I'm learning. So this is actually a shot of me running the OKM equipment that you saw me use in the last video. And I'll show you, hopefully in this file, the potential of what this equipment will do if I can get software. We're basically too poor to, I hate to say it, poor. We're too poor to afford the software. So it's like 800 euros, and I just don't have anything extra at this time. So, but I'll show you what it's capable of. I'm going to go ahead and look, see if these scans have any pictures in this file. Shield targets. Okay. So these scans kind of come up in a very variable way. If this doesn't come on, I'm going to have to change with what this opens with, apparently. Just a moment. No, I need another. There we go. Hold on just a sec. These are different file types, so. Okay, we should have the goodies on the screen now. This is one of the types of imaging. It's actually been crigged to a certain point to reveal certain things. And in this case, we were really more looking, oops, didn't mean to grab him. Let's put him back here. Guess that bottom one's not that big a deal. Nope, I want my little red circle. Okay, so in this, we're going to be looking at the far right in this, and what we're seeing is a kind of a blank area in the scan. And then we see another long blank area, and it has a connection, and then we see one over here. And in it is actually kind of a square form. These kind of both have them, corners. And in this one, there's a nice turquoise blue object. Something is sitting there. That something is a stack of gold. The black areas that look hollow are hollow. They're rooms and tunnels and a stope. And that central section would be a stoped out area, like a big crack in the ground that they mined the whole crack out. It could be 3 feet across. It could be 18 inches, man. You wouldn't believe what these guys would go in there and mine, but it could be 3 feet across, short, or it could be 50 feet across and be open as a giant vertical column, like a chimney. And they'll mine the whole vein out like that. And then they'll punch holes in the top to winch out high grade, and they'll punch lower stuff to get the muck, all the ore, the crap out usually. And that'll go out lower tunnels. And so what we're seeing apparently is the top of a stope with a small tunnel leading off it into a side chamber. And we'll keep on looking through. Let's see what we've got in here. So this is another basically way of looking at the data. And this turquoise object that's in the middle of my red square right now, that's what we call a shield target. So the air inside is going to have no magnetic field at all in the room, in the cavity, and all this stuff. So we're going to get in these deep blues. But when we get into this turquoise, and we see that foggy kind of cast off weird form to it, what that is a non-ferrous metal. And we're beginning to see the tops of electron vortice, or high electron activity, but no magnetic field, if that makes any sense. So it's non-ferrous metallic. I don't know how much chance you guys have ever had to see stuff like this before. So this is the same scan. And we're going to get a really, really cool look here. So let's get our little red friend. This is our shield target we just talked about. This is a stack of gold. And this form next to it is the same stack, but it's just the electrons that have built up on the surface of the highly conductive gold. Since it's not being emitted as a magnetic field, it builds up from the Earth's magnetic field, rolling on, sticking onto it. And then that builds up till it has a potential, then the Earth's field blows it off the top of the target. So what we see here is we see the main stack sitting here, and then we see that field being, a reflection of that field being blown off the top of the target. That can change periodically, but generally the target won't. And this target doesn't. This is a hard target. Now, also though, hidden kind of, because this one's sitting in the middle of a floor. We can see it because we have a contrast around it. Up here is another one. And you can see the edge of it there, that square looking edge. And so it's right there. And it's in a chamber, but it's right tucked in a corner. And it's like kind of in the edge of a cavity tucked in the wall, and it's pushed right up against the wall. So its signature is bleeding into the wall, so to speak. Here's kind of a little bit of a 3D look kind of at that stack and the cast off the stack that we see here on the floor. Now you can actually see now kind of the sides and the corners of the stack in 3D. And then you can see that the residual vortice electrons don't go all the way down. They just kind of blow off on top of the surface there. But we actually have a tapered angle here to the stack, and that's because that's how you stack a stack. That's the way it goes. So this is a lot better picture, higher res scan of that room. So this would actually be a different scan altogether, with a lot finer resolution. So the first one we might have done a resolution of 1 foot, and where this one we're doing a resolution of maybe 2 inches. And what we see here as well is the same stack, but now you can see its geometry, and that it's definitive. There's no question that it's geometric. And you can even see the geometry of the top, but you'll notice that it looks angled now and it's starting to kind of deform. And that's because as that pancake of electrons flows off the side, it wisps out and breaks back out and goes back into the ether, to the field. And that's what in the last live stream we did, it showed you Polaroids of plasma being emitted from the ground. And that plasma is what that is. That residual vortice buildup on gold comes off in stages, kaboof, like a fire burns, poof, poof, poof. And that is what we're photographing with SX70, original SX70 emulsion. Same thing. This is another area. This is actually an adit that descends into the place, and it goes down, starts up here and drops and descends, and the value gets higher. There's something here which could be a wooden door or blockage, or this is probably backfilled, but after that point it opens up into a small adit crack that goes into another stoped area. If it's here, it'll be cool. I don't even know what's in this file, like I said. And there you can kind of see it again. Nope, that's everything in that particular part of the file. Let's see. No, I think that's probably going to do it for Solar Cross. So anyway, that's Solar Cross. Now I'll zip back down. Oh no, I moved our dish all over the place. Trying to grab our circle again. Get our circle kind of we'll pull it out of the way over here. Let's kill it. Okay, so let me get back to chat for a minute. We'll see what's been going on. I know you guys have been super busy. So I gotta get my other screen up here. We're rocking. All right. Let me back up. Okay, cool. You guys haven't gone too far. Right on. I love to see all the input, but it's hard to go back sometimes. I just don't want you guys to get bored or whatever, you know. Try to be the entertainer. What's up, Risky Cat? Okay, there we go. Says Steve found a couple really cool structures yesterday. Okay, that's Duke and them talking. And if you guys have questions, feel free to please write them in all caps, and that way I can pop off and see them. If not, it's kind of tough. But I see here from One-Eyed Mike, and hi, One-Eyed Mike, good to see you back. Hey, Robert, have you discovered the source of the blue clay? Yeah, I've discovered a couple sources for the blue clay, and it's actually not anywhere within probably half mile or 3/4 of a mile of that place we had that deposit. There's a small amount leaking out of what another place that looks like a little artificial knob kind of up above this, quite a ways away, maybe 400 yards. So, I mean, you know, quarter mile. So, but there's about a half mile, 3/4 mile, there's actually a layer of blue clay. But that's the closest we've been able to find it so far. GLSD, Bob mentions GLSD is very lush this summer. Lots of rain since June 1st. And man, I want to get out there, Bob, and roll a little bit. Matter of fact, you get with me and I'll arrange something. We'll figure it out. But I know I want to get up there before we go to Moon Lake, and that's on the 23rd, 24th. And I was also going to ask if you actually might have wanted to go up there to Utah with us as well. Go trip out on the Moon Lake guys, man. That's pretty cool. I know you'd be down to talk to them. Richard, 22-inch track, there's a formula. Yeah, so 23 is the biggest. That's what we measured at the GLST, what Bob was just regarding, which is our main research area for like 12 years, because it was close and we could get in and out, and it's opportune. But yeah, that was 23's there. So, and then the male that was there, when I saw him, he should, and then got on my camera, and what we went back and looked at everything, he should have been right about 12 foot. Brian Mechanic, find gold coins, finders, keepers, correct? I mean, yeah, basically, but of course we got to deal with the landowner. There's been, and this is, I kind of wanted to bring this up too. Thanks for kind of reminding me here, Brian. We've had a couple of screwballs. No offense, really. I mean, I'd probably sit and drink a beer with you if I drank much, but we've had a couple of people come across and say, "Oh, you're trespassing." One guy says, "I know where you're at. I know where you're at. You're on this land grant, whatever." Man, we're not anywhere near a land grant. And well, we might be here 50 miles from one or something weird, but we're definitely not on one, buddy. And then another guy, you know, another kind of smart ass comment, where a guy says, you know, "Oh, are we stealing artifacts? The feds have already been notified or whatever." And it's just screwy. People have to be that way. And it doesn't discourage me. It does. I've got thick skin, man, like really thick. Like I'm skin all the way from one side to the other with some bone in between. And so it doesn't, no big deal. But it is odd. And will address it, because no, we're not on grant land, federal land, BLM. We're not on anything managed by the Department of the Interior, Department of Agriculture. We're not on monument land, wilderness land. We're not on national forest. We're not on anything. We are on private land, completely private, owned, no liens, and with full permission, invited by the landowners to do anything we want. Period. So if you want to go beyond that, then you can go and fantasize somewhere else. But yeah, just stay off the comments. We don't even need it in the way. Trust me. Let's see what else we got here. Let me go back to my streaming software for just a second. I'm going to cough on you guys. Okay. So, Jeff Hall, thanks, man. Yeah, it probably seems pretty amazing from the outside. It's just like language, man. It's just, like, I'm not going to take credit. It's divine intervention all the way across. I was thrown into a world of that. I was thrown into a life of it. I was blessed with the deal from Sesame Street, or which one of these things don't belong. And then the kind of curiosity that gets you hurt. And if you blend all kind of that together, I guess you end up where I'm at. I paid a lot of attention, and I did a lot of research. Yeah, R.I.P. Cappy from Wandering Star, no doubt, right? Yeah, I know. And like we all probably know. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, but we all probably know. Hard to sit here, though, I'll tell you about it. Steve Will, thanks for sharing knowledge with us. I sincerely hope you find life-changing ancient wealth with your efforts. Yeah, me too. And I've found an awful lot of it. It sure would be nice to bring some of it home. And we can do things legally. We fit all the board, man. We can operate within the regulations of the Department of Antiquities as a knowing party. All the bases are covered. All it takes is usually a cooperative landowner, and then the funds to pay the damn light bills while we make that stuff happen. And usually I've taken investment groups, I mean, up to millions, and it doesn't work. It's everyone goes bananas, tries to steal the project money. They all infight. It goes bananas. If you prove anything's actually there, then all hell breaks loose. And so I hope God will bless us with the right circumstances to get something out. I know the landowners are tremendous people, and we owe them an awful lot. On the side of this whole project, we owe them an awful lot anyway. So congratulations, says Amocat. Congratulations. Now the channel is finally monetized. Let's hope YouTube doesn't take as long to pay as it took them to count the 10K. Yeah, I know, right? 16 years. Yeah, I know. And we didn't even try to get subscribers. What was funny is we were getting, with 1,000, this is hilarious, kind of, right? With 1,000 subscribers, we were getting 30,000 views. We get 1,500, boom, in hours, right? Just commonly. And then it would just go up, boom. And then with 10,000 subscribers, we get 30 in the same amount of time. So the ratio change is insane, and we top out at 3,000. So of course we had a short go nuts today, like I said, and then it flatlined. But just looking down through again, got a question from Nick N. It says, how many of the sites do you feel are monitored to prevent entry? Yeah, that's the whole thing. See, the systems that are in place since the 80s, for the powers that be who would be concerned, there's different groups, right? So most of them, not very much. Some of them are watched by some pretty off-the-wall groups that we've heard. Some are neighborhood assembled, right up to national, to global, to historical, still in fact, or even native groups that watch these things. Some of them are watched extremely heavy. Some they'll shoot you. So they're all, it's the whole array. Most are lost in time. So most have been looked for, or a lot have been rumored and looked for, maybe maps, family information, whatever. And when you start dumping information, then you attract attention, and then those sites can get infiltrated and things. But not a lot of them are guarded, basically, with Sentinel type activity. As far as the powers that be who would be concerned, they have technology that they don't even know what all these things are. There's just millions of things. And the computer will log it all, database it all, and nothing will happen until something changes. So you go dig a hole on a site or whatever, then when in the next series of scans go across, it makes a change. In terms of the change, it gets attention. And that's kind of how that stuff works. And I know because we used to have access to that crap. And but yeah, a lot of it's not really heavily monitored. So you mentioned, Jeff Hall says, you mentioned death trapped. Can you elaborate on what you experienced? Well, I haven't experienced poison that would kill me yet. So we have experienced arsenic, but not anything gnarlier than that. But rock crush traps, all types of sets. So I don't know if I have a death trap file in this computer. No, it doesn't look like it. Or I would just show you. So massive stone assemblages, anywhere from 5 tons to 1,200, 1,500 tons or bigger, up to 5,000 tons. Really, really big stuff, manipulated, positioned so that it's unstable under certain conditions, or they use triggers. So we've seen a rock that was, I don't have that picture, probably 18 feet long, 10 feet across, and maybe 6 or 8 feet thick, which is a huge rock. That's way up around, 800 tons or something, or heavier. And it was on rollers, and then had plates. It was like a block, and then it had a big block here, and it had rollers, and then it had 3 big vertical plates. And the front plate, where on the outside, it looked like the front of the cliff. And it was super steep going down below it. And so it was built that if you pulled on a little trigger back here, it slid a block, and that block was about 15 feet by 10 feet by 18 inches thick, and that slid and bumped the major block. And then that leaned on the pads up front, rolled on the rollers, it went off. And then down below it, this is a really, really rocky mesa. And down below it was a campsite built in amongst giant rock where it was completely clear. It was like the only place that you could set up some type of a camp. And and that was straight below it. It was obviously built to go down and take out the whole thing. And that would demoralize the people to the point that any left in the party would leave. A rock that size going down 100 feet would absolutely just wipe everything completely gone from down there. And it was obviously built to do that. So also, though, they would put arsenic. The Jesuits would crush up mummies from South America, haul the crap up here, make slaves carry it, and then they would put that they would dust and powder these caches with it. And the Aztecs may have been doing it too. We don't know. But the reason for that is then the mold that lives in human corpses would actually get in you and kills you 6 to 9 months later. And there's been biologists and naturalists that have gotten that same thing before and ended up in the hospital, and then they've lost a lot of them because it's prolific in the body. It takes over the body, and it's super hard to kill, basically. So it's tough. That's just another kind. So I'm late going. Big-headed Martian. Good to see you, big-headed Martian. Right on. So excellent. Yeah, think Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, but for real, just gnarlier stuff. The stuff in like the movies is impressive, but the stuff that they really got is scary. I mean, I guess that's the difference. I've been prying. I've been prying on a rock. Pry. Hi, baby. My lady's here. So I've been pry on a rock that's in a ceiling, a little one, about the size of a football, and had a little gap around it. I'm like, gosh damn it! Actually, I was prying on it with a little short shovel, and then I went and told the guy, "Give me a rock bar." And I was sitting. The tunnel was about this wide and about 4.5 feet tall. I was sitting on my ass, my knees, kind of halfway. And I said, "Give me a rock bar." And he gave me a rock bar. And I just reached up and went bang. And as soon as it went bink, I mean just instantly, bink, boom. The hole was full, right in front of me, popped the bar out of my hands and spit me backwards about 5 feet into that. The air pressure, when that void space filled completely with material, the air pressure spit me backwards and I hit the guy behind me. So that's another way. So anyway, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Hi Tara. Mark Brissett says hi, babe. So sweet. So what if you guys got any other? If you got any other questions, shoot me a question. I'll break out files and we'll start knocking stuff out. I don't know what our time's looking to be. Anybody got a time? I have no idea when we went on. I don't want to roll too long tonight. But let's see what we got. So I made a few notes on stuff I wanted to kind of ramble on about, and I guess maybe we can find a cool picture or something to stick in the background while I sit and ramble, right? Let's see if this one will open. Oh no, why are you down there? All right, let me get my streaming software back open here. Yeah, that's a little guy, I guess. We'll probably zip him up a little for us. So anyway, this is something else. Maybe I'll look at some pictures of this. This is Diablo Canyon stuff, but I do want to cover a couple other subjects as we're kind of in here chatting. And one is how do I get into it? So, all the YouTubers, like they blurb certain words and they don't say certain words and they allude to this and that. Okay. I have no idea what those words are. I have no idea. I'd love to operate exactly within all the parameters that I'm supposed to, but I don't know what the words are. So where I'm going to go with that is some of the new laws that have been proposed in another very Western country, who we might or might not have gained our independence from, put forward that there's misinformation laws, and they're basically discussing locking people up, and they're actually actively starting to do it, people for spreading misinformation. And that's kind of scary when historical doctrine, archaeology, things like that are not finite sciences. They're not something that you know today that doesn't change tomorrow. For some reason, I've said it in the past, astronomy is very fluid. It changes daily, literally. Major things in physics change daily, but archaeology does not want to change. And so the information in that's handled a lot differently. So is cryptozoology or zoology in general. Size limits on creatures and what can be there and what's not there, what's gone completely and what doesn't live here, what lives just on the other side of the state line, like an animal knows. We have them in Virginia, but not in this other. It doesn't matter. They don't know where the lines are, right? But the point being is, if misinformation is a jailable offense, and standard archaeology does not agree that, let's say that people were in a certain area 10,000 years ago, and then you're going to go show evidence, but it's not through an academic institution. It's not being studied, submitted, or peer-reviewed. It's not being submitted for publication. What happens to that? Legally, if it's something that steps on their own toes, maybe makes someone else wrong when they don't want to be wrong, changes something too fast, interrupts procedure, costs somebody money, whatever, right? It could become potentially threatening disinformation. At what point does that stuff become jailable offense for basically every single thing I'm showing you? Because 90% of this does not fit timelines, cultural aspects. It doesn't fit modern zoology. It doesn't fit all these things. Or paleontology. It doesn't go. These are puzzle pieces. I'm not supposing. You know what I do here. I show you pictures of things that are real, and if we have to, we'll go look at them if you doubt them. But the point being is they present themselves. I'm the messenger for real, truly. I experience it. It shows itself to me. I show it to you guys. But by doing so, what am I saying? Especially if it speaks loudly by itself. Well, you can't throw the picture in jail, but you could throw the messenger. So it gets to be a little bit concerning, right? When you see they're actually locking people up, and then people say, well, we're in America, we got our rights. But they've blatantly stated that they're going to go after people in America and try to extradite them for the same thing. Well, yeah, right now it may be kind of tough, but I don't know. I guess it all just depends on who's running the show that, they think that they'd cooperate with that thought process, basically. Because if so, then where's that going to leave? This is supposed to be the age of enlightenment. And that would basically be the age of anti-enlightenment that's being financed. So let me get back in here and we'll see a little more rant. What else we got going on? Yeah, Devil Canyon. Yeah, that's what this is. And this is the guardian of Diablo Canyon that's in the picture. I could show you a little bit about that if you guys want to see it. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how long we're running on. I got somewhere around 11:19 here in Mountain Time. Yeah, exactly. Who gets to decide what the truth is and what is disinformation? Well, Duke, you and I have talked about that a little bit. I know in the case of the Melba Ketchum DNA study, the Sasquatch Genome Project, that everyone thinks they know everything. Boom, boom, boom. What happened to that? I'm going to tell you what happened to that. And I can do it in 2 sentences. I don't have to go on and on. Their legal department stopped the publication, so Erickson bought the journal. That's what happened. The legal department in the scientific journal, which is a business, it's basically a science magazine if you really want to get down to it, their legal department said, no, this is bad for you. After they'd already signed off of it, was going to be published. Everything was finished, as a matter of fact. The legal gets it to look at it in the end, to see if there's any mistakes. A lawyer decided what you know. A lawyer. And started a huge controversy because then their only out after this whole study, all the peer review, everything else was what? Their only way out was to purchase the magazine. They didn't purchase and publish their own stuff. It was already being published before. You see how this gets? Okay, but to answer Duke's question, who decides? Well, in that case, a lawyer, a guy, whoever's the head of their legal department, decided if you get to find out about another form of hominin you share this planet with. Not hominid, hominin, buddy, human, right? I mean, my gosh, but there you go. They don't want to be wrong. Mark Brichetta says, how is it any different than what an explorer has ever done or said? Right, that's the whole thing. You'll notice they've tried to kill the age of exploration. I was born an explorer. That's it. I'm scared of a lot of stuff, man. But I look like I'm not, but it's not. And you'd say, well, it's courage. It's curiosity. mainly is where what you'd call courage stem from. I gotta know. I gotta look at it, and I gotta know. I gotta look at it, and I gotta know. And the things I've already been that way about, it's like, oh my gosh, I found it, and I found out, and it's like, damn, now I got to tell everybody, right? That's where this is going, and it all reveals God in the end. If you want to get into it, I don't care what you believe, but that's my trip. I'm not religious. I know the difference. Yeah, they want to change it in the end of inductment. Yeah, I know. They just want to put it back down. We're getting loose, so to speak. Humanity's getting loose. It's not the proper well civilized child anymore. Humanity's gained too much of the American ideal, the black sheep and the hot rod and these things. So where are we going with that, right? But you're right. That's what it is. Are you still in contact with any crypto Four Corners people, or did that sort of dissolve after JC's sad passing? Oh no, Nick. And Nick asked that question. No, matter of fact, George is my brother. I don't talk to him or see him very often, even though we touch each other base all the time like that, hitting each other on the memes and shit. But yeah, they're my brothers, man. The people up there, that's my family. I consider George a brother of mine. That's how he's always felt. I've never felt. The moment I met George and Junebug, actually, and a few of the other guys too, man, actually. And George mainly, he's hardcore KX, always will be. I drug George and Junebug up there to Skinwalker Ranch, over the fence, over the Space Wolf research area there, and we studied over there. These are the guys that I know from past history don't run regardless of the situation. They just don't, period. They won't. Some of the hardcore real people in the world. But yeah, we still hang with them. It's still good to go. George is basically carrying on locally there what was C4C, and Jack Carey is where he was big part of that. And Jack and I talk a lot. We present, next to each other. I've made sure to have him at the two conferences that I helped, put on, sponsored or whatever, and made sure Jack was all part of that. And Jack and I actually have a few things planned in the future that are going to probably blow some minds. What a great guy. People don't realize he was a submariner. You talk about a level-headed squirrel, man. That's one level-headed squirrel right there. Jack's a great guy. So we get to a few more. Yeah, we had Bigfoot Radio, Duke. We have established that professional liars get to decide what is real and what is not real. You're right. Because the lawyer, that's what they do for a living, right? You're right. Fact checkers, yeah. I could go check facts and find any fact I want to check anything I want these days. Because people just write out their ass. So, yeah, Mark, RIPJC. Yeah, no shit. Wow, what a great guy, right? Honestly, it's been long enough. I'm going to say it. I wish he'd have listened to me when I told him to just take baths in white onions and drink white onions, because he probably wouldn't have passed. Pneumonia got him, fluid in the lungs. That would have cured it. He didn't do it. I didn't push it hard enough. I didn't. Should have. I feel bad for that. Is there a lot of Bigfoot activity like a mile or two away from Skinwalker Ranch? Well, but really on the ranch, because they're in the river bottoms there. So any river bottom, that riparian zone that's in there, or what I would call lush environmental zone, that's far different than the stark rocky clays and stuff. Anywhere there's Russian olive, grass, they have structure, there's game, there's rabbits, there's whatever, they're all through that. And they're all through all of those lowland regions. Certainly not specific to Skinwalker, and then nor would it be excluded, because they don't care about fences or limits or boundaries or titles. But yeah, they're prolific. So we found sign immediately when we got down in there. We did it during the day and at night. Had no really intimidating activity. We crawled. I know those guys look out there like it's some scary dark Narnia or something, but we crawled all through that crap. And I'm not saying that we're special or anything like that. It's just that's kind of what we do, right? And we did see a blue orb at one point. Doug Wright got to see it, and then and stuff. But we didn't have any intimidating presence. Even though there was a kill location not too far away from there we heard of, where they had a lot of bone piles and a lot of things thrown. But we did find sign of a single subject that had gone through maybe a week to 2 weeks before, left knuckle prints, feet print, hair at 7 foot, stuff like that. So they are in there. I mean, they are in there. But it's, like I said, it's a river bottom with Russian olive. And anywhere you have that, you could have them, basically. Yep, tears the backbone in the background, right? No doubt. Well, no great man without a great woman. So that's my partner in crime right there. And we're gonna get more and more a partner in crime. Hopefully, she'll be sharing the screen once she gets a little farther along in speaking. She's a little new to it. I just don't care, man. I had to not care to do it, so it gives a rat's ass. I'd love to have her on here with me, though. Wouldn't that be cool? Oh, really, Mark? You're really that close? How cool is that? Well, I hope you're going to come up and see us at Moon Lake Gathering on the 23rd and 24th, and maybe Phenomicon on September 4th through the 7th. So Nick N says, you mentioned looking into the aspect like the treasure caches, then everything else odd shows up eventually. Is that due to grid lines or similar certain strange zones? Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, zones of interest for sure, right? And often, you know, I don't know why the mineral thing goes along with the other thing, per se. But there usually is a connection between the earliest peoples, the reptoid looking guys, whatever they are, Bigfoot. These things were all interconnected at one time. It's like there wasn't nothing else going on or anything else going on, excuse me, sound a little redneck. There wasn't anything else going on out there really besides the natural world, the animal kingdom. Man's activity was not as diverse like anything like today, other than survival and animal husbandry and whatever agriculture they had, whatever. So there was 3 or 4 major aspects of activity, and they seem to all be involved in those major aspects of activity. And at those locations, maybe because all of their collective involvement there is what brings the high strangeness to those areas in particular, because something acts as a focal point, I should say, for all this anomalous activity, whether it be paranormal or not. And so, yeah, I think that I don't know what initiates it, but there is some common ground to it. Because sometimes it's just because the most jagged places is what has the best mineral or ore bodies, because the most metamorphic forces took place there, whether it be volcanic or whether it be slips or pressure zones or whatever that has conditions that are really off the wall. So like, billions of tons of pressure at 1,000,000 degrees, 5 miles deep, and what that does to atomic structures of rock and material, and then it gets ejected. And then these locations are special for God knows what reasons, but they're the ones that get mined by the ancients, by the off-worlders. They tend to be the most jagged, the most rugged. They tend to be the places that are pumping out water. So there's a lot of reasons, I guess, these could end up being focal points. What's up with Blind Frog Ranch? Well, it's kind of the same thing. I don't know enough. I know vicariously and by talking to a couple of guys that are affiliated with it. I know they mentioned at one point they might want to have me out there. I know that I could pretty easily read their monuments and their symbols and things like that they've got going, and working with deep earth imaging and geomagnetics and that kind of crap. I'm sure I could bring a whole new ball and bounce it on their table. But they seem really cool guys. I guess what they're doing is real. I don't know any different right now, so that's what I'm going to go with. They probably have some of the same stuff. I mean, it's going to go ancient Aztec, probably Jesuit, Spanish later involvement, potentially maybe KGC on it if it had been relocated, but doubtful. It may have activity up toward the later Catholic period, kind of doubtful as well. But they definitely are going to have stuff. From what I can see, anyway, I can't say they're definitely going to have stuff. That's kind of hardcore, right? I presume that they're definitely going to have stuff that's Aztec and Spanish, I would think, and possibly off-world, but who knows? The whole valley is kind of crazy cool. So, your 59th birthday. Why not? Yeah, well, it's in, that one is in Altamont. And you can look it up online, Moon Lake Gathering, and get the information. I actually have something here. I need to pump it out anyway, you guys. So let me do that real quick. I'm trying to find my events folder real fast. I have so much crap stuffed up here, man. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Mooney Lakey. So this is the one we're talking about. This is the Moon Lake Gathering. And this is their poster. And so you can see here, take a little better look at the bottom. So you get a little glimpse, you can see here what's going on and where it's at. So we're looking at August 23rd, 24th, 2024, Altamont City Park, 15911 West, 3850 North, Altamont, Utah, 84001. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be this is going to be a kick deal too, man. It's not just the speakers. When we look at these gatherings, we tend to look at the speakers and go, oh, that guy and this guy. And this is not like that, because what it is it's hundreds of guys that are all the guys from the hills go to this thing, talk to each other, split off in all their little groups, and most of them are happy to show you the weirdness, man, and they bring it there to show. And we'll be bringing a little bit of weirdness to show as well. Stuff that's not been seen. And that's what most of these guys don't even have social pages. They just don't. They're from a different era. They're a different type of people. You've never seen the photographs because they've never made them public. And this is where they've got them. So if you get a chance to attend this, make sure you guys do. I mean, really, big time. All right. This is a big-headed Martian. Oh, let's see. Well, let's back up a little more. Sorry, we'll get down there to you. So watch out for skinwalkers. Yeah, right. Any files on the UFO? So, big-headed Martian, why don't you jump down and elaborate real quick for me which UFO? So, or at least what are you talking about in more detail? Yeah, right. Yeah, another respect for Tara, no doubt. She follows me around, right? Oh, wow. So you filmed a blue orb near the lakeshore near Blind Frog Ranch. Kelly shot it. Excuse me, you guys. That's way, way cool. Yeah, we saw ours up the hill up at Space Wolf Research, like 6 or 8 inches diameter or whatever, and just cruised right up by the fence and took off. We didn't know what it was. Nick N., that rock bar you found and showed pics of, I forget if you managed to put a date or original source to it. Well, it would have been deposited during the 1680 Pueblo Revolt period at that time, because that revolt killed, they massacred everybody on that site. And I'm sure he had stuffed the rock bar in before, because there was actually a map made, and that's how I figured out there should be a rock bar off that cliff, because the map showed what I assumed was a tool cache, what I assumed was a rock bar, literally, and a placement. And so it was just hidden in optical. I just couldn't see it because of the optical illusion of it. And as a matter of fact, now that you say that, I know for a fact I just dug out a cool shot of that rock bar and where its location. So this is the rock bar in place, in situ. You can see it right here, and it's jabbed in behind this rock. And then from the other level, you're looking, and there's a dark mineral seam in the background there, and that's what we get. So, and I think I have, but that's how it was hidden. Here I'm standing in this shot. I'm actually standing directly over the rock bar, which is still in the hole right there, telling somebody I just found the rock bar. Because all day that day, I ran around the whole day and just go, I'm going to find a rock bar today. I'm going to find a rock bar today. I'm going to find a rock bar today. And, we found amazing tools, but I'm going to find a rock bar. And when I got off this cliff, some people probably heard the story when I got off this cliff, and something just turned around, hey, dumbass, look. Head dumbass, turn around and look up, just like boom. Hey dumbass, turn around and look up. And I turned around and looked up, and there it was. And I'd have never found it. I mean, it's been sitting there for 320 years or whatever, and I never would have found it. I thought I had a little closer shot of that sitting in the file, but I don't apparently. So, I mean, there's some other cool stuff in here. So one of the coolest things that was found on that site was this bad boy. So this is an ancient chisel like nobody's ever seen because I haven't shown the pictures of it. And it's going to be one of a kind. So this area in particular was like the Jesuits' Area 51. And to forge something like this would have taken a stamp forge, massive one. And this could have been the same stamp forge, actually, that made that other chisel that we found over here at this site, believe it or not, because there would not have been a lot of these machines ever built in the New World. These took tremendous amounts of industrial resource to operate the stamp forge. And so it's indicative of a massive operation. But this one actually has 2 points, and they're so they're so sharp they'll go in your skin, and those 2 points are split down the middle like a tuning fork or something. Just really crazy. Zip you up another shot of it right here. And it's funny because there is a crystal crust on it, but you can see the black as well. And these things are not degraded. It may look like it, but it's not. You grind into that, they're perfectly fine. You could use it tomorrow. But likely you've never seen a design like that. And that's relative to its antiquity. And for scale, I guess we have a quarter here. But this is dense steel. Some weird alloy, denser than normal steel. This thing I think weighed like 9 pounds, and you can see how big it is in comparison to a quarter. It's bigger than it looks. You'd be surprised when you hold on to it. But I'm not sure if anybody's ever even seen a tool like that. I doubt it, because I've never seen even a picture of one that looks like that. Yeah, and then here's a shot of when I got the rock bar out. You guys can we'll zip in here and get a little bit better look at it here. So you can see the back was made to fit something. But it's made like a Japanese sword. It's made out of layers, all pounded together, and then the end was tripped into for pulling out heavy spikes or something like that. It's a very weird tool, but extremely heavy. And this as well is all covered in crystals, but there's no degradation to the metal at all. And here's a chisel from that site that's a little reminiscent of the one we found at the CX-01 site. And this is about 200 miles away, south of Santa Fe, actually. And one of these days we'll go a full blown and show you pictures, but this is the hole to get in here. And the back here, you could fit a Volkswagen in that bottom slot. So that's how wide that is. I'm using a massive excavator to dig this stuff. Matter of fact, I probably got a picture of it right here, I guess. So this is the one off this dig here. And you can see yours truly right there. Hello. And then the size of this machine that we're using to dig this hole. So this hole ended up being 90 feet deep, 1,000 foot of entry ramp. When I tell these stories, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I'm really not. I try to be as mellow as possible about the whole thing. It's like even the timbers. So when we got down the bottom of that shaft and pulled these timbers out, like Oak Island kind of stuff, we're not guessing. We talk about it. Like, here's the dendrochronology. This is the file on it. And so you can see there was later times on there. But if you look up, we got 1680 and 1690. And then these tunnels were later concealed, and we dug through material up to the 50s. The 1800s, 1810 to 1920 would have been the KGC who had entered part of these tunnels. But of course, the timbers themselves and all that stuff came back a lot earlier. And we did dendrochronology and the whole nine yards as well. So, but anyway, yeah, and that whole site, I'll show you what that whole site started with real quick. That whole site started with this rock. And then figuring out this rock. And it was cool because there was actually a rock in the cliff and then one behind this out front. And each one had a kind of a crescent form scallop. And what those are is sails on ships. And so you take both those as they were opposing each other. One was this way, one was this way. And the cliff was up here and the rock was down below it. And you would just take basically like you were sailing two ships in a circle. And in the center was where that vertical shaft was. So nothing else. But that was all dictated from this rock, so it began it all. And what people don't realize, they see a cross like this, and one that has an open bottom, which means you're there. This is the location. It's planted where you are. You ain't carrying this around. And then as well, you got this cut notch right here, chiseled in the rock, and that means entrance notch. And then you have MV. M, that stands for ridge line. And then you have V, which is 5. And it actually has some other meanings too. It's the virgins. It stands for Christ. It stands for a lot of things up to the left. So Christ is up to the left. These are up to the left. So we look up to the left. And was there entrance up there? No. But up to the left was the ship sail. And on the rock was past this point was the ship sail. And so that's how we put all this together. And then use deep earth imaging. And this is what some of the full potential of that OKM equipment that we use is. This room has 7 piles of gold in it, as big as the pile I showed you before, and that would be shown by these non-ferrous anomalous targets here. And then each one of these, as I showed you before, the turquoise rectangles are stacks of gold. And then this, on the far right, where we have ferrous iron anomaly, is probably a cast cannon, a pretty big one, sitting on top of the bars of gold, believe it or not, on top of the stacks. And we go to this, and then this is our vertical shaft. This is actually where we dug our hole, is right here. And then we have what's called tunnel signatures on line scans, follow those over, and then you end up where your room is. So this is the potential. This is, again, the same room done at looking at different levels, like a CT scan kind of, where you're looking at slices as you go deeper. And as we excavated and could go deeper, this is what was revealed. But it shows the potential of that OK equipment. You know, once we get software, I'll be showing you guys all kinds of crap, because at that point I'll be breaking it out. And oh, you know what? Here's the scan. It shouldn't be in here, from Solar Cross that I showed you a little while ago. Here's our original non-ferrous target sitting on the floor. That's 78,000 pound target. We have target number 2. We can see we have our stack here. But this is the whole layout. So we've got basically the whole top of the hill. This is how it's laid out. Not sure you can see the cursor for sure, so we'll go ahead and grab our little red circle again. So this scan is in place. This scan is in place. This scan is in place. So is this. Okay, all these are insets. I guess we should be able to drag that over a little here so we can see it all. I'm not sure why it's not. Oh, I know. Here. Anyway, but what we're looking at is the whole top of the hill structure. And when I said before that we had our 2 entrances, that's what's both being shown in this scan, are the 2 upper shafts. And then we have large stopes. So this is a large stope, and this is a large stope, and this is an adit that descends into the top of that stope, and there's either an iron door or potentially an iron coffin sitting right there. And then we have a tunnel that leads from there over to that section that goes into the top of this other stope. But just to kind of dramatize, you know, that's back to that Solar Cross mines. Then this is our scanning technology if we set it and map it 3D per se on the ground. So we can see here what I'm mapping below ground. And you can actually see how accurate it is, because we have these 2 ridges of rock that drop right here, and you can see them below ground as well. So with the fill material and what was originally the fill and how they did this. And then we see, of course, the top of our shield target, which is down there about 110 feet. And yes, we can look at 110 feet at air, wood, plastic, whatever. So let's see, pop up maybe another excavation photo. I kind of want to see if I can move, if we're locked, or I can move them over. Oh, good, I can move it over. But anyway, this is the scale of excavation. So this is an excavator mucking out, digging, dropping the material, and we have a big loader behind it that comes and grabs that material and gets it out of here and hauls it away. And this was a virgin area. There wasn't even a road here. It was just the side of a mesa, basically. It was actually in a coal mining area. It was the one place they were never allowed to mine, and they just weren't. And the reason is because of stuff like that. That's a layer of sulfur, iron, and gold. These were in the walls of the dig when we did the excavation. And we weren't allowed to mine it because mineral rights, and we'd have got canceled. Plus, look what was down below it, man. There's stacks of gold below it. And the investors were going ballistic because they wanted me to mine this stuff. And you can see, I don't know if you can actually see, oh, there's some druzy right in here. But a lot of it's sulfur and iron, but sulfur and iron run with gold. And it's just loaded. And just the humates, just the raw area of humates, actually, I think came up 0.087 ounces per ton just in the humate, not in the seams. And that's pretty high. That's pretty high. And there's only been 2 other places in the world where gold's been found in association with coal or humates, and that was in it's like the Welsh deposits, not even in the U.S. And I guess quick little blip, we'll get into this, and then we'll go back to our deal. And I'll go through this whole site one of these days. We'll do a whole deal on it. Maybe we'll make a video on it. But this is the tool collection that was brought in, and you can kind of see the size of that chisel that I showed you before now. And then, of course, we have in the center frame a lead sheet, an iron sheet, and then some of these chisels, there's a line or groove on the back of this one that's the same on both sides. Really weird piece. Of course, everything here was weird. This is like a 15-pound chisel. You're not going to just tote it and hand it, hit it with a regular hammer. That was a whole different story. And then part of the cartwheel up in the upper left, which is super cool. So we've heard of, and then we have these round half wedges and stuff. All this is for quarry and rock. Except for these 2 pieces, which are actually axles to the little wagons. This is a part of it too. But the little wagons, or little carts, we've heard of these little carts in history, but as far as I know, no one's ever found one, never seen a picture of one yet. But that is a wheel to one right there, and we'll get a little better picture of that for people who want to kind of take a look at that. So this is our wheel, and this gives what our sketch of what it would be and its diameter. And of course, it's Jesuit. It's going to be 14-inch wheel. It's built on the 7s. It's built using the same Royal Cross as the spoke pattern. Everything they did was like that. And so you can kind of get another kind of little graphic image of it there. And these were steel carts because gold isn't light. You know, you're talking a cubic foot, I think, is 1,200 pounds. So you need, and then these little carts were little narrow things, and they went underground. They didn't use rails. They actually rolled on the ground. I think that's going to be, I guess one more cool monument for Run for the Hills that you guys probably have never seen. It's just too cool. So this is, as says RFTH, this is the same site with all the tools and everything gold. And you can see here a mushroom, stone mushroom, and then cut in the top of the stone mushroom is exactly the same kind of mushroom upside down in the cap. And that means there's a buried capstone under the capstone. So this is a sealed, this thing's sealed. This thing is full of hydrogen sulfide gas, which is why this one never came out of the ground. And it was valued at about 20 to 40 billion, electronically measured and actually validated by independent mineralogists from Arizona State University or Arizona Mineralogical University or Museum or whoever. I have the paperwork, whatever. It was a long time ago. But anyway, it was all verified for tonnage. And it was massive. So between 150 and 300 ton, as measured with Bob Fitzgerald's atomic harmonic resonance machines. And so anyway, so the finance companies went ballistic, went crazy. I ended up having to shut this thing down. It sits there to this day. It's because they were going to take over the operation of the project. The only problem is when you have that much hydrogen sulfide just in the vertical shaft we see in the scan. It's 90 feet to the bottom, 3 by 5. Holds enough hydrogen sulfide to make a fatal cloud a mile by 30 feet thick. So what person would pop that in a populated valley? You'll kill hundreds of people. And they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it right. They didn't want to spend the $700,000 it took to pour the cap, drill it, run the gas off to a burner and burn that gas off. They didn't care. They wanted the value. And then they didn't care. They tried to have one of the other guys be my project manager, the guy with my movie boss. And it's like I told him, I said, dude, you can't do it. Why can't I do it? I'll learn as I go. I said, no, your learning kills us. We die. You know, oh, wow, maybe I shouldn't do that again. I just lost 5 guys around the hall. So they used to call that the walking death, because if you take one big breath of over 500 parts per million, the capillary tubes in your lungs close. You suffocate walking around, looking at everybody, asking for help. Nothing anybody can do. So you don't play with that shit. It's also highly explosive. It's hydrogen. So anyway, that's what happened to that project. So that project still sits there. That thing's still there to this day. I got the world's largest collection of Spanish colonial mining tools out of it. A lot of what I just showed you you can't find anywhere in the entire world except in the book De Re Metallica from 1541 that was prepared for the King of France to bring them up to speed in technology. So anyway, now that we've done all that, let's take a look back through. Okay, and Grandizer, good to see you. I'm going to remind everybody, if you got a question, throw it in caps. And I'm liable to miss it. If not, Pyromedic, good to see you. Good to see you. If you're asking me if you'll see me in Missouri, are we going to camp? I don't know. If anything, we might do overnight or something, but it's hard to stay away from the little farm here and keep everything going. Question, Grandizer. Question, have you had a chance to investigate the Superstition Mountains, Arizona? Supposedly portals are there. What region in New Mexico is similar that you know of? Excuse me. Well, where we're at right now makes Skinwalker Ranch look like Mary Poppins Playground. I'm not even kidding. And I don't mean that in any disregard whatsoever. Everything they got up there is real. Whether they got a buried UFO base, ancient thing, whether they got a buried UFO, a crashed UFO, whatever, that's absolutely real. But what I'm saying is people here get fried by UFOs, man. They cook people. People point rifles at them and have interactions and stuff like that. Really bad stuff has gone on in this area, and it's prolific. It's dense. It's not every once in a while hard to reach out to. People don't go out at night here. The ranchers say if you got your parking lights on, you're out way too late. All the immigrant workers and things like that used to just come up seasonally to come up and work and things. When they'd stay up here, they wouldn't go out at night. I'm not even off the porch, and they'd say Diablos, Diablos. I mean, this area is deep. Really bad. We had sightings of just about everything from pterosaurs, pterodactyls to Bigfoot to giant hyena, black hyena looking things to living dinosaurs it's off the charts. And they said there's no evidence of Native Americans living here for like 8,000 years. And an Apache told me the whole valley was off limits, that it was home of Medicine Rock and home of the little people. And that you just don't go there, period. And that this whole valley was off limits. And they're right. Archaeologically, you can see that. Within the last 300 years, but in between there, no. So the similar, I don't know. I've been around superstitions a little bit. I've not been up in them. I was taught by one of my mentors was Neil Miller, who was a geologist, basically in charge of the USGS mapping, all that. They did a lot of internal mapping, and he told me about some crazy shit inside the superstitions. One was accessed through a spiral staircase that went from the top of one of those jagged peaks, and it was backfilled, but it's a spiral staircase leading straight down to the earth in a huge shaft. And but I've not got a chance to work them myself now. Yeah, Konya 420. Good to see you. Yeah. I mean, anything's possible. You say, would a Giants made it without machinery? Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. Totally possible. It's just some things are machine perfect because they're machine perfect. Where handwork will always leave a signature because you can't do exact repetitive motion by hand or high speed motion. Other than that, yeah. Yeah, intuition told me. Well, I'll tell you, that's why I called this last place Intuition Point, because I just went to where the spot was, exactly opposite of how I do it normally. Normally I do all the logic and intuition I hold to the side, and this time I just went out there intuitively and found a spot and then checked it, and it's like disbelief because it hits so crazy, But anyway, are you ever going to do a test to see exactly what's in the alloy? We'd like to. Once I get resources, we'll do all of that. That's the whole point to this. It's the story, and that is the story. So, absolutely. Now we get into Big-Headed Martian. I believe it was the UFO that was buried, and it was about 30 feet wide. Also, I've seen a juvenile Sasquatch on the upper Provo Canyon River in the 70s. Oh, we'll go backwards. Man, that's badass. You got to see a Sasquatch. I mean, or Bigfoot, whatever. It can be life-changing. It certainly opens you up to new possibilities all the time. Like, it blows your brain. And then the other part of that, and so when you're asking about that, no, I didn't ever get any more information on that. So the only thing, and we're not positive it's a UFO, that we've imaged something down there that's about that big, that's on, that is makes absolutely no sense magnetically, electronically. It exists in two phases in the same space in the same time, both positive and both negative, occupying the same space and time, and that's not possible. And that is what the developer of the equipment said, plain and simple. It fries everything electronic in your hands. It drains any battery you bring near it. Crazy stuff. It's emitting a beacon out the top of the hill in a 50,000th of a second algorithm. Just looking to see if I potentially had a picture of that just sitting right here. It's actually likely that I do, but anyway, so it's putting out a beacon in the top of the hill in an algorithm. Yep, there it is, at 1/50,000th of a second. And this is basically a graphic of that algorithm. And that is the actual algorithmic signal off the chart you're looking in the lower scan. The top scan is a control done outside the field. I ran into the field to stop the machine from burning up. You get in the center, it won't burn up. And I ran it into the center of the field, put it on the cube, and then we set and recorded that algorithmic rhythm. But that's being emitted in the same spectrum as the Earth's electromagnetic field, believe it or not. This hill is crazy, but this is what is there. And basically, the only thing we could determine based on the material, what was happening with the fields and the energy and everything, that we likely had a buried UFO or UFO tech, 0-point technology. And then something that also kind of reinforced that. Well, for one, I mean, well, I'll just say that we found another one, and it's in a hill adjacent to it. And it appears to be the object, but there's no power. It's not in that weird field, and it's not doing anything. It's just sitting in there. And out front of there is this rock. And the site is really crazy. We call it 0-point. You can see more information on it at CrowderExploration.com. It's one of the very few things we do have up in there. But the coolest thing at 0-point is out. So the rock I just showed you is the rock. Let's grab our red circle for this one. Nope, not that. That. So the rock I just showed you is this rock right here. And then that obelisk pointed rock right there. And then this rock. And right here is a model of what's inside there. And you bet it looks like a craft, because it looks like a craft. It absolutely looks like a spacecraft. And there's no question, even from the side, it looks like an elongated disc. And this is what's inside the hill. This is why we believe what they're telling us. We believe what the rocks say. And we let them dictate. And if you put two and two together and don't try to argue with it, this is what you come to. So. Says, let's see, Konya for 20. Yeah, Blind Frog Ranch in the Gallium. That's a weird deal. I don't know what to think about the gallium, although new science with gallium, go look it up. I can't go over it here. Just go look into the new science of gallium, what the physics are saying, what they're starting to use it for. That could potentially be an answer. I don't know about that box. I mean, it looks like it's tied together with cable. I would guess KGC. I wouldn't go Aztec. I mean, but KGC, that's right up their alley. It looks like something done by the KGC between 1830 and 1860. Gallium would probably be something that they would put away if they had a load of it. It's surprising, but that may be. But they were tracking all the ancient Aztec stuff, all the ancient Jesuit stuff, even all the weird stuff. The KGC, which is the Knights of the Golden Circle, were in all of the above. All above. You guys can go look into those. And I was asked about a death trap a little while ago, and I explained it to you, and now I see the picture of it. So if you guys were watching, here's the picture that I drew of a diagram of that death trap. Okay, and right after we got back with it. This is back before we carried cameras, and things like that weren't convenient in those days. Had I known, right? I do have an invitation to go explore this ranch, but it's like, I don't know, 100,000 acres or something, and there's almost no roads, and I don't remember where this is on the ranch. I got taken in there, and it's been over 25 years ago, and I don't First time in, I was looking, reading stuff. I didn't pay any attention to the little 2 tracks and where they went around this boulder and that one. So I don't know if I could get back to this thing again, but there it is anyway for you guys. So anyway, let me go ahead and zip back before we make this thing forever and a day. Yeah, I can't fathom the amount of people that time took to actually build this back then. I know. And Nick, I'll tell you what, buddy. This is a drop in the bucket, man. This is nothing. I've been in holes in the ground you could fly a Cessna in and look across with the biggest 8-cell mag lights they had in the day, and you couldn't see anything, just blackness underground. The bottom of DeSoto Mines, north of Phoenix, and the Bradshaws is like that. The Bradshaw Mountains are hollow, and people think, oh, I've been in the mines in the Bradshaws. If you've never been under the Bradshaws, looking at the roof that is the Bradshaws, that's like 300, 400 feet thick, is the roof. And then you have air shafts dropping through that. Underneath that are open rooms, and you go down below more open rooms, and you could fly a Cessna in a circle in them. And we've been on stuff in there that I've never seen on anybody's video anywhere. The sketchiest shit you can imagine. Rocks the size of a truck stop hanging out of the ceiling. They got wedges in there holding all this shit up that are trees 4 feet thick are the wedges. And then they got steel cables hanging down from the giant rock with logs flattened. And then a cable goes down through each side of the log. And that's hanging from the ceiling over an abyss. And you walk log to log to log. It's Indiana Jones Lara Croft shit video game from hell, man. And then you get down in those tunnels and there's a fog, and the fog is made of sulfuric acid fog and no breathing gear. And you're down there and the tunnels are solid blue with veins of gold this wide, half-inch wide, and this veins of silver. And then you have like white arsenic bundles that are these fuzzy looking crystals about this long, bundles this big sticking on the walls. The walls are solid blue. The water in the bottom of the floor will eat your shoes off if you walk in it. Man. It's the shit they did. You can't even imagine. Where did all that copper go? I don't know. I've never even heard a historian even talk about it. When we told the mine rescue guys, we were going down there out of Phoenix and I was buying equipment. We told them that we were going down there. They told us, if you go down there, you're there. Don't call us. We will not go down there. They train in the upper levels, and where most of the normal folk run. And anyway, but they said they won't even go in the lower. Period. They won't go down there. Period. You go down there, you're there. Period. We're leaving you there, no doubt. And it's crazy. I don't know how many people it takes to do that kind of crap by hand. I can't even imagine it. Yeah, Disneyland by comparison, for a fact. Rob and Tara, I hope you have a Discovery non-Ferris life-changing fortune. So do I, Steve. Trust me. I've been working hard I've walked away from so much crap because of the bad juju, negativity, greed, gunshots, whatever. I've walked away from a lot of stuff, dude. And then I know where a lot of crap is. And it's not like, oh, I know where that's buried over there. And if you go to, it's not that. It's stuff we put machines on. We put everything on. We pulled crap, Todd Wyndham, Robert Dukes, Todd, good to see you. Are you just chiming in? You are on the tail end of this thing. Good to see you, though, bro. Is the Bradshaw, is that near Bradshaw Ranch? I'm not sure where Bradshaw Ranch is, but it is near Bumblebee. So if you go west of the town of Bumblebee in Arizona, north and west of Black Canyon City, all that range in there is the Bradshaws. And what it is about I think 5 to 7 mile deep part of the earth that went like this. And now it's all standing up with all the layers and all the geology exposed in that type of stuff, basically. And then that makes the Bradshaws. It's so rich in gold, it used to be known as the Golden Triangle. Probably one of the most heavily congested, richest gold-bearing strata in the world. And these original 7 cities of Cibola, the Golden Ruins, lined the canyon above Black Canyon City there. Gold was so prolific in nuggets there. It still is. I've seen nuggets the size of cigarette box. And I used to train people to nugget hunt for the gold dust twins there in the late 80s using the first imported mine lab technology. But so lots of gold nuggets, lots of free gold. But the implements all those ruins had, they're black volcanic pueblos. There were 7 of them up along the cliffs up there. The ruins are still there. And all of the originals, they all used implements of gold. All their bowls were gold, and spoons were gold. All that crap is gold because they had it. It was everywhere in those river bottoms. They didn't value it. It was their utensils. King David, good to see you. Good to hear you too, man, or good to see your words. Yeah, thanks for showing up. like I said, I don't know how long we're going on this deal. Have not a clue. Don't know how many people are watching. I don't know much because I'm looking at another screen. But I appreciate the attention. I know we've gone over some pretty diverse stuff so far. I was in this file here. There's all kinds of crazy crap. So, yeah, Manuel Bradshaw Ranch. I know where Bradshaw Ranch is in Arizona. Man, I forgot. I didn't even snap the Bradshaw. You didn't tell me for a minute. I used to roll over there. We used to do shit there, but I don't remember exactly geographically where the borders of it are now. But we did used to play around the Bradshaw because it's not that far out of Black Canyon City, if I am correct. And what else you guys want to see? I always talk about treasure. You want to see a piece of, like, chunk of treasure that we found one long time ago? And there's what the treasure looks like right there. So that's a little gold bar. People think that people think they're a lot bigger than that or different than that, and sometimes they are. But usually that's what you get right there. Would be a gold bar, and that's a heavy little bar. That's not light. So, and they don't have to be real big to be heavy and worth an awful lot. That one's been broken, but 8 or 10 of those, and you get a lot. Now a bigger. We could look at one of these. This is a dory bar. This is a big bar. This is about an 80-pound bar or heavier. As a matter of fact, I think this one's over 100 pounds that we're looking at right there. It's so weird. I have these 3 screens and they show up at different times. So I have to be very careful about what I'm seeing, what I'm playing and messing with here. I could shut off the whole stream. Well, you guys, I might just go ahead and call this. Maybe I'll put up 2 more pictures that are cool. And these are what good monuments look like. Can't tell you about this site. Wish I could. Can't. Not yet. But maybe, hope God I pray someday. But this is what monuments get to be when they're really, really off the charts. And so I better pull this down a little bit so you can see it all. Up top here, though, we have what looks like a snake's head hanging out from the cliff, or a turtle. This happens to be a big snake. And then we have these what we call daylight markers. We have the notch like the Pac-Man, lesser or greater than. And then we have these geometric markers out front that are made with a white mineral seam. Most people have never seen monuments quite this dramatic, let's say. I think I got a little closer shot here. You can kind of see them now. But you look at this crescent that's cut out of rock. Look at that crescent behind that triangle, and then it is sitting in another crescent. And there's our kitty. So, come here, boy. So when you look at this stuff, we think like, oh, that kind of looks like this and that kind of looks like that. And there's no kind of to it. When it's good, it's good. It's really good. And then this black rock out front is actually the mask. And if you ever want to find out what the mask is, you can look at the mask worn by Viracocha, where he said that if I was to remove my mask, the people would run away in fear. And that's the mask. And the mask is all over the world. It's in Africa. It's all over the world. That's the mask. That's why they wear a mask. They were trying to look like somebody. No, they're doing what the guy did before because he was a hideous alien. And he wore a mask to not freak all the people out when he went all over the world. Come on, buddy. Get down. And but this is the same mask. And it'll be seen in several of our videos over time because they used it, and it was used pretty frequently on their sites. It was a way of saying, whose is this? So there was usually either 3 cuts, just like you'd see on the monster can, means the same dudes or whatever, beings, by the way. And so there's either 3 cuts or there's that other symbol. So now you guys know what to look for. But anyway, let me hit the stuff that's here, and we're going to start wrapping this up. I'm thinking, we'll do a half-hour show or something, and we'll do more often. We'll do half-hour, and this is kind of what seems to happen. So Richard, Doug, everybody, Steve, Mark. Oh gosh, all you guys, King David, Nick, Todd, Bob. I don't know if I lost you, man. It was so unbelievably good to see you in here. I haven't lost you yet. Really good. Anything lucrative on the East Coast, like CT, Connecticut? Man, I don't know enough about the East Coast to know. Just starts taking a little research and talking to people. A lot of times they're hard to get to talk, but once they do and get their trust, you never know what you're going to find out. I would imagine, because if you look at the book America BC by Barry Fell, it's all East Coast. And it's all the early cultures that were here that were not supposed to be here. Buddy, you're going to get attention no matter how, huh? There you go, buddy. But anyway, so I imagine it is prolific. You just have to go check it all out. But the book America BC by Barry Fell is probably a great place to start. Let's see. Steve Wolf, phenomenal. Hang Robert, thanks for your time. Thank you, brother. Thank all you guys again. Thank all my patrons, especially. They really are keeping the internet on. Starlink got shut down, and so we had to let it go for a little while. We got it back on, the graciousness of one of the kids, actually. And then, but the other beam antenna is still ripping. And but you guys are keeping that running. You're keeping everything running. And I just want to appreciate it. I mean, you really are. I wouldn't be able to do it right now. So it's awesome. And we're trying to bump it up. Now we're going to push memberships. We're going to push all the little crap that makes a dime here and there. I know I found out you make 10 cents for every 1,000 views on the watch page. And that's only about half of the views show up as really applicable views. So that lets you know when you see people's work how much they're probably making on their stuff. So anyway, they never tell you that, do they? Isn't that weird? So thanks, King David, again. Big-headed Martian. Grandizer, thank you, Robert, for taking the question. All you do. Have a great week. Just in case I missed your auto. Got buffering issues here. No problem. Just replay the whole thing. And if you got buffering issues, you'll be able to watch it, off the live. The live is tough to watch if you have issues like that. So, okay. All right. We're going to wrap it. I want to say thank you to all you guys. You mean a lot to me. You really do. The only reason that I'm telling anybody, I've seen all this shit, man. I've done this shit. I don't even need nothing. It's blown my mind beyond the point that of anything. It's like now it's all empty. Like no matter what I've seen, if a UFO got parked 30 feet from me, I could probably just be dry and terse and go, yeah, that's cool, because I got nuked by a chrome ball, blasted out half the hair on my head. I had my back broke by a ghost. I've seen and found all the shit I have. It's insane. It's already pushed me over the limit. The only joy I find in it all now is trying to show everybody else so they can experience the awe that I did, because it blew my mind. It blew my soul. My mind. It blew my soul. And I want other people to experience that, because once you have, the world isn't a mundane place anymore. The universe isn't a mundane place anymore. You look forward to things. You look forward to what in the world could come or happen next. It gets to the point that it's your door's open, let's put it that way. And you want to love everybody. You want to share common ground as a being in this whole wondrous thing we've got going on, right? And that's what it is to me. That's why, but without you guys, there wouldn't be that entity to share with. I would just go sit on a beach and carve coconuts or something, without a family to do for, without the public to give the information and to do for. It would all be crap. So anyway, I'm going to say again, thank you to everyone for doing this, for showing up and just for being here. And we're gonna keep kicking it in the ass. As normal, the only thing I ask is check your subscription status. Make sure you're still subscribed. As I've shown in the past, people are being dropped 14, 15 times they've had to re-up. If you can give this a like, I really would appreciate it. It actually does kick the algorithm, even though we're getting throttled, that shoves it up. So the likes are more important than you could possibly imagine. I don't do it because it makes me feel good, because this shit really doesn't. Look at the stuff that I look at in my life. It's not a little like doesn't make me feel good. It's that I know people saw it. I know they appreciated it. That's what makes me personally feel good. So if you can do those things, it'd be great. Outside of that, above and beyond, I crawl around the rocks, take the danger, man. If you guys take a little bit of a risk and grab this stuff and share it, it's like minutes, I will walk through burning flames for you people to get you answers if I could get you guys just collectively get thousands of views, if one person for every 100 shared this stuff out, we would be making leaps and bounds, and that's going to get us the resources eventually to where we can go actually here. Look, I'm going to show you right today, live. Look in this hole. Look, go. We got repeaters running 5G up out of this hole, straight to sat, straight to you, live, 300 feet deep in the ground. You know, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to go. Because you guys know we're not people that are talking about other people's information and finds, and we're not authors that have written books about it and this and that and discussing this and then arguing with other creators and other opinionated persons about other people's stuff. It's not who we are. We're the guys that do it and then bring it and throw it on the table all covered in mud and blood and let everyone figure out what the hell it was. So on that note, again, thanks everybody. God bless you, man. God bless everybody.